Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! When we simplify a fraction, we want to try and make the numbers at the top and the bottom as small as we can. So looking at the numbers 24 and 60, we need to think, is there a number we can divide both numbers by? Well, they're both even numbers, so we can divide them both by 2. And that will get us 12 over 30. These are also both even numbers, so we can again divide by 2. And that will give us 6 over 15. Now 6 and 15 are both in the 3 times table, so we can divide them both by 3. And we get the answer of 2 over 5. Now 2 and 5, there's no numbers that go into 2 and 5. And so that is our answer. Now we could have gone straight from the question to the answer by dividing by 12. And some of you may notice that 24 and 60 are both in the 12 times table, so you could have gone straight there, but it makes absolutely no difference if you divide by 2, then divide by 3, or you could have divided by 2, then divided by 6, or done it in any of those orders. To convert between meters and centimeters, we times by 100. So we do 12.31 times by 100. Which would be 1,231 centimetres. For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. For us to create the largest number, we need to pick the biggest digits for the start of the number. So the biggest digit is 7, then 6, then 4, then 3. But the question says it wants the largest even number, so we need to just swap the last 2 around to make sure that it is even. So our answer is 7,634. When a number is times by itself twice, we write it as 3 squared, or that number squared. When it's times by itself 3 times, we do 3 to the power of 3, or that number to the power of 3. So when we've got something times by itself 4 times, it's just going to be that number to the power of 4. Looking at this line, what do you notice about all the coordinates? Any coordinate along this line, the x coordinates are going to change, but the y coordinates will always be 3. So the equation of the line is y equals 3. So for shop A, they're selling the rulers in lots of 3. And so we just need to get our 60 and divide it by 3 to figure out how many lots of 3 we have. So we've got 20. So if one bundle of rulers costs £1.50, then 20 times £1.50 would be £30. So in total it would cost £30 at shop A. We're going to do the same for shop B. Their bundles are 5 rulers, so we're going to do 60 divided by 5, which is 12. So we're going to buy 12 bundles at £2 each, and that will be £24. So the cheapest price is at shop B at £24. The angles in the triangle add up to 180, so I'm going to take away the angles that we know, which is this 63 and this 72, from 180, and when I do that I get the answer of 45. So my answer is 45 degrees. So a composite bar chart is where you'll stack the bar charts on top of each other. So we're going to start with this 12 here. And so I'm just going to do a bar up to 12. And these lines go up in 2s, so it would be there. And then we're going to do this females. So we've done the males, we're going to do the females. And the females is only going to be 1 high because they're going up in 2s. And we need a way of showing male or female. So what I'm going to do is just shade the female there, and I'm going to just draw a key. I'm going to say if it's not shaded, it's males. And if it is shaded, it's females. Okay, next we're going to do the 8 and the 4. So what you can do is just do the whole thing, then split it afterwards. So it would be like that. Shade in the females. And then finally we've got a 4 and a 12. And let's shade in the females there. Now don't spend forever on your shading, as long as it's clear which one's male and which one's female. To find the factors of 30, we're just going to write down all the factor pairs, or all the pairs of numbers that multiply together to make 30. So 1 times 30 is 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Now 4 doesn't go because 30 is not in the 4 times table. 5 times 6, and we notice that if we pick 6, it's just going to be 6 times 5, it's just going to be the opposite. So the factors are all the numbers that we've just written down, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. This coordinate is telling us to go 2 to the left from the centre. We go right when it's positive, we go left when it's negative, so it's 2 to the right. And then it's telling us to go 1 up. It's up because it's positive, so we need to go 1 up. And we get to the coordinate of B. So the coordinate we get to is B. And so we just look at the -2 on the x-axis and the 1 on the y-axis, and that is where point B is. So we're going to first of all work out what 100% of 260 is, and that's just 260. Next we're going to work out what 10% is. And 10% is very easy because we just divide it by 10. So 260 divided by 10 is 26. And we also need a 5, so I'm going to try and grab a 5%. And we do that by halving the 10%. So that'd be 13. And then all we need to do is add the 26 to the 13, because the 10 plus the 5% are 15. And that's 39. So our answer is 39. The first thing we need to work out is the fraction that Sarah will receive. Well, if Jane receives 9/10, then that just leaves how much of the numerator to match the denominator. So 9 plus 1 is 10, so it leaves 1/10 left for Sarah to have. And the reason that works is that the total amount needs to add up to 1, and 9/10 plus 1/10 is 10/10, which is just 1. So next we need to find out what 1/10 of 60 is. So we know that we divide by the bottom and times by the top. So 60 divided by 10 is 6, and then 6 times 1 is just still 6. So our answer will be £6. So to solve this, I'm going to first of all just write out the question just to make it a bit bigger. First thing we do is put in our solving lines. So we just put a set of lines to the left and the right of the equals. And what we need to do is get the x on its own. So looking around, there's this 11 we want to get rid of, and this take away 5 we want to get rid of. Always get rid of the plus or the take away first. So we're going to focus on this -5. We've got to figure out what is the opposite, what's the inverse of take away 5. Well, the inverse is going to be +5. Now we can't just do that to the left hand side, we've got to do it to the right hand side as well. So we add 5 to both sides. When we add 5 to the left hand side, we're just left with the 11x. On the right hand side, we do 28 plus 5, which is 33. Now we still don't have x on its own, we've got this 11 here. Now what is that 11 doing? Well, that 11 is a times 11, it's multiplying x by 11. So to get rid of it, we need to do the inverse of times 11, the opposite, which is divided by 11. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other side. So we're going to divide 11 both sides. That will leave us just the x on the left-hand side, and 33 divided by 11 is 3. So the word solve means find out what x equals, and we've done that. So we've got 10x plus 2x. Now 10x plus 2x are like terms, so we can just add them together to make 12x. And we've got that equal to 24. Let's put in our solve lines. Now that 12 before the x is a times 12. So to get rid of it, we do the opposite, which is divide both sides by 12. And so we've got x on the left-hand side and 24 divided by 12, which is 2. So our answer is x equals 2. We're going to start off by writing the numbers that the dots are at. So we've got minus 12 and we've got minus 5. And x is anywhere between those. Now, it's obviously going to be greater than minus 12, and it's going to be less than minus 5. But it can equal minus 12, and the reason for that is it's a filled-in dot. But it can't equal minus 5 because that is a hollow dot. So I think about ratios as piles of money sometimes. And here we've got J getting 5 piles of money and Anne getting 4 piles of money. And each pile is going to be equal. So we've got to first of all work out how many piles of money there are. So we just add the 5 and the 4. So there's 9 piles of money. We sometimes in maths call them parts. So we say that we have 9 parts, okay, or 9 piles of money. Now, each part, oh, I've got an equals there. Each part or each pile is going to be worth what 99, okay, which is the total amount of money, divided by how many equal piles we have. So divided by that 9. So 99 divided by 9 is 11. So one part is worth £11. So J has 5 piles of £11. So J has 5 times 11, which is 55. And Anne has 4 piles of that money. So 4 times 11, which is 44. We can check this by adding the two together. And it should add up to the amount of money we have, which is 99, which it does. Here we're given angles on a parallel line. And the first thing I do is just find out what letter they connect with. And if you look, this is kind of like an upside down F, so they're F angles, and F angles are always equal, so X is going to be 11 degrees, that's the easy bit. Difficult bit is figuring out Y, and the way I remember it is that cor F bonding, and I just put the F in there, so it's going to be cor F bonding is what's in my head, but what I write down is obviously cor S bonding, angles, but it's just a way that I have to remember it. Here we're given two angles on parallel lines, and the parallel lines are here and here, and if we draw the line that they are on, then it creates a little C shape. Now whenever we were dealing with C angles, we call them either interior, co-interior or allied angles, and what we know about interior angles, I'm just going to call them, is that they add up to 180. So we can get that 20x and we can add to the 40x, and we know that that equals 180 degrees. And I need to make sure I write down the reason because they're interior angles. So here I'm going to be solving this algebra. I'm just getting my tramlines in. 20x plus 40x is 60x equals 180. And we'll divide both sides by 60 to get x on its own. So we can solve it. And we've got x equals 3. So the value of x will be 3. So if we look at the graph, this point here is it's the biggest. This one comes close, but it's not the biggest. So the biggest would be this one. And if we draw a line down from there, Now we might think that it's enough to say Q4, but actually there's two Q4s here, so we must state the year as well. So Q4 in the year 2000. So I'm going to write the fact and the question kind of one on top of the other so we can see what's going on. So we're going to write the question underneath. Now you'll notice that the question is very similar to the fact. And in fact, we can see that all we've done here is we've times that by 100. And all we've done here is we've times it by 10. So what have we got to do with our answer? Well, we've got to times it by 100 and times it by 10. In other words, we've got to times it by 1,000. And so we're going to times this by 1,000 and we'll get 11,187 as our answer. So 100% of 120 is 120. And let's put that in a bubble. So we're going to split that bubble up to find out what 10% is. And to find 10%, all we need to do is divide it by 10. So divide 120 by 10, you get 12. And then we want to split that bubble up again into 5%. And 5% is found just by halving it again. And so that would be, or just halving it, so that would be half of 12, which is 6. We could do with 1% as well. And we're trying to get to 26%, so we'll do 1%. So dividing the 10% by 10 again, 1.2. And we could do with 20%, and 20% just means we're going to double the 10%. So double 12 will be 24. So to work out 26%, we need to add these together to get to 26. So we're going to add these numbers here together. Okay, so we've got a 6, a 1.2, and a 24. And we're adding them together. And that would be 11, so carry the 1, and that would be 3. Now, it says to decrease it by 26%. So 26% is 31.2. So we need to subtract that. So we're going to do 120 take away 31.2. So I need to borrow 1 from the 2 to make that a 10. Borrow 1 there to make that a 10, and that would be a 9. So 10 take away 2 is 8. 9 take away 1 is 8. And there's a 1 here, so we need to borrow that 1. That's 11 take away 3, which is 8. So our answer is 88.8. To answer this question, we're going to have to create a two-way table for all the information. So I'm just going to draw a quick table. So we've got maths, English, science, then a total column. And then across here we have male and female and a total column. Okay, so going to fill in maths at the top, English, science, and then we have a total. And then we've got male, female, and then total at the bottom. So looking at the information we have, it says there are 43 students who are male. So altogether the total male is 43. 30 out of the 52 students who went to science were female. So we're just looking at science, and 30 were female, and it says there were 52 altogether. 37 students went to English, so total for English was 37. And then 17 females went to maths. So looking at maths and females, which would be there. So that's all the information we're given, apart from the 115 as well. There we go. So we start filling these in. So looking at these two, if there are 115 students altogether and 43 were male, that means 72 will be female. Looking along the bottom here, the total of English was 37, the total of science was 52, and the total altogether 115. And notice I'm not necessarily reading the question here, I'm just filling out the two-way table, but we'll read the question at this point. So it says work out the number of males who went to English. Males who went to English will be this box here, so this is our target. But you can't work that out directly, we've got to kind of go around and work out what we can. So the next thing we can do is work out this bit here. So the total females 72, the females who went to maths 17, the females who went to science 30, so that leaves 25. And then you can see here we can work this out. So the total was 37 who went to English, 25 females, and so that means there will be 12 males. To get from the length of a square to the area, we square the length. To work backwards, what we do is we square root, because the inverse of square is square root. So we've got 196, and we're going to square root it to find the length. So we work out the square root of 196, which is what number times itself is 196. And you should learn them from 1 to 15, so you should know all of the square numbers from 1 to 15. So you should know that the answer is 14. So the length, therefore, is 14. So to work out what the perimeter is going to be the distance around the square. So if I draw a square out, we know that each of these lengths are 14. So it's just going to be 14 times 4, which will be 56. So with a stem and leaf diagram, the numbers in the middle often represent tens. They could be units. So we look at the key first of all, and we see that 3 line 9 means 93. So the numbers in the middle are going to represent 10. So this is a 90. Now we're looking for English, so this will be 92. So our first number will be 92. Then this will be 10 tens and a 4, so it would be 104. 11 tens and 1, so 111, and then 11 tens and 2. So to find the median, we go cross out the biggest and smallest until we're left with 1 or 2 in the middle. Here we're left with 2. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add the 104 to the 111, and we're just going to divide that by 2. So when we do that, we get 107.5 or 0.5. So our answer is 107.5. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So the pass mark for the test is here, and we can see that there are 2 students who passed the test. So it's 2 students out of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. And we want this as a percentage, so we're going to times it by 100%. So we do 2 over 7 times 100, and that gives us 28.571, blah, blah, blah. And it says it wants it to the nearest percent, so that will be 29%. To work out the circumference, we need to first of all work out what the diameter of this is. And to do that, we just draw a line across the circle, and we can see the diameter is twice as big as the radius. So the diameter is going to be the radius times 2, which is 28. Formula for the circumference of a circle is just pi times the diameter, which will be pi times 28. Now to write this in terms of pi, which the question asked for, we just put the number first and then pi. So it will be 28 pi. For mutually exclusive events for A and B, the probability of A or B is equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. Now we're given the probability of A or B, which is 0.36, and we're given the probability of A, which is 0.12. And so to work out the probability of B, all we need to do is going to solve this. We're just going to take away 0.12 from both sides, and that will give us 0.24 is equal to the probability of B. So B must be 0.24. It only works if A and B are mutually exclusive though. The difficulty with finding the perimeter of this shape is we do have some of the lengths missing. So we're going to find the lengths that are missing first, and then we'll find the perimeter. So the one on the right here is going to be the same as the one on the left. So this is going to be 5.6. Same with the one on the left of the 2.4. So this will be 2.4 here. This length here is going to be slightly more tricky to work out. What we do is we work out the total length across, or the total width across, which is 9.8, and we take away the bits that we know. So we take away these purple lengths at the bottom. So to work out the length of the missing bit, we're going to do 9.8, and we're going to take away the 4.3 plus the 1.2. And then when we do that, we do 9.8, take away those bits, we get 4.3. So this missing bit here is 4.3. So to work out the perimeter, we're going to start at the top left of the shape and add up all the lengths as we go around the shape. So 9.8 plus 5.6 plus 1.2 plus 2.4 plus 4.3 plus 2.4 plus 4.3 plus 5.6. When you add all those up together, you get 35.6. It's a perimeter, which is a distance, so our units are centimetres. So we're going to start off by filling out this table. So 0 times 1, 0 times 2, 0 times 3, 1 times those, 2 times those, and 3 times those. And we're looking for the probability that the product, which just means that when we times them together, will be more than 2. So which of these are more than 2? Let's circle all the ones that are more than 2. And to work out a probability, it's always the successful outcomes over the total amount. So the successful ones are the ones I've circled, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The total are all of them together, where it's a 4x4 grid, so it'd be 16 in total. And so the probability that the product will be more than 2 will be 9 over 16. So this question is asking us really to divide the 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. So we're going to do 5 3/4 divided by 1 3/4, because we're finding out how many of each of these towels, which is 1 3/4 metre, can be made when the total amount of cotton is 5 3/4. So first thing we're going to do is convert them to mixed numbers, to top-heavy or improper fractions, because at the moment they're mixed numbers and we can't divide or times if they're mixed. So we times the 5 by the 4 and add it to the top, which will be 20, and then add it to the top 23, and then do the same. 1 times 4 is 4, plus it to the top is 7 over 4. Now a little trick here is KFC. We keep the first fraction, we flip the second fraction, and we change the divide sign to a time sign. So we're going to keep this first fraction as it is, change that divide to a times, and flip the second fraction. Okay, whenever we multiply, we just multiply the tops, so 23 times 4, which is 92, and we times the bottoms, which will be 28. And now we need to convert this back into a mixed number. So first of all, actually we can simplify this, because we can divide top and bottom by 4, so that would be 23 over 7. And then make this a mixed number. So 7's into 23 go 3 whole ones, and then obviously 2 remainders, so it's 2 over 7. Now it asks us for the amount of towels that she can sew patterns into. Now the issue here is that she will do 3 whole towels, but then have some left over, but she doesn't have enough to create a 4th towel, so it's just going to be 3 as an answer. So when we say y is directly proportional to x, what we mean is whenever x doubles, y will double. Whenever x halves, y will halve. Now we've got this proportionality sign here, and to make that an equals, all we need to do is introduce a k constant to the right hand side. So it's y equals something times x. Now to find out what that something is, to find out what that constant is, what we're going to do is feed in the value of y and the value of x that we have. So we're going to feed those in. So y is 55.3 and x is 7. So it would be 7k. And we're just going to put our lines in and solve this. So it's going to be divide by 7 both sides. And 55.3 divided by 7 is 7.9. And that's what k is. So we're going to rewrite this equation here, this formula here. Y equals 7.9x, and that is actually our answer. So it's really important, first of all, we make clear about how we convert things. So if I've got a unit in kilometers and I want to convert it into meters, then we know we just times it by 1,000. So 2 kilometers is 2,000 meters. But if I have something in kilometers squared and I want to convert it into meters squared, I actually times it by 1,000 squared, which is 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, so I'm actually timesing it by not 1,000, but 1,000 squared. So that's another 3 zeros. You can see here that that's 1,000,000. So we times it by 1,000,000. So 13 kilometers squared is going to be the 13. And then it's going to be times by 1,000,000. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 13 million. Now, it says here the farmer must pay 1 pence tax for every metre squared. So this is going to be 13 million metres squared. And so that's going to cost him, or her, 13 million pence. But the answer is going to be in pounds. So we just need to get rid of 2 of the zeros at the end. So it's going to be 13, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be £130,000. To work out the area of a rectangle, we just multiply the width and the length. Here they are mixed numbers. So all we do is the width times the length. Now when you multiply with fractions, always make them top heavy first, or improper, and to do that you times the big number by the bottom and add it to the top. So we're going to do 1 times 2 and add it to the top, so 3 over 2. Same with this one, 1 times the 3 at the bottom added to the top. 1 times 3 is 3, add to the top is 5. Now we've got to get the numerator, we don't need to get the numerator the same, we're multiplying. All we do now, really easily, is just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So we've got to convert 15 over 6 into a mixed number because it asks for a mixed number. So 15, how many 6's go into 15? Well, we're first of all going to have 2 whole ones. And how many left over? There are going to be 3 left over. Now, 3 over 6 is the same as 1/2 because we can divide top and bottom by 3. So our answer is 2.5. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. To rearrange this, I'm just going to write out the equation again. And I'm going to put my lines in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is try and make the x positive, because we're looking to make x the subject of the formula, which means we need it to be x equals. So what I'm going to do is just add x both sides. So we've got x plus m equals 10. Then we want to get rid of anything on the left hand side that's not this x. So we want to get rid of this plus m. So we're going to do that by subtracting m both sides. So we've got x equals 10 minus m. So our answer is 10 minus m. X equals 10 minus m. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets. And we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation. And I can put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject. So we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says to expand your answer fully, so we're just going to expand the brackets. 7m plus 70. So in this question we basically need to add the 2 3/4 and the 2 2/5. So we're going to do 2 3/4 plus 2 2/5. Now if I just rewrite this, 2 3/4 can be written as 2 plus 3/4 plus 2 plus 2 1/5, or 2/5. So we can add the 2 2's together to make 4, and then all we need to do is add the 3/4 and the 2/5. So when you add two numbers with different denominators, what we need to do is get the common denominators, and we do that by just quickly writing out the 4 and the 5 times table and seeing what the first number in both their times tables is. 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's 20. So we need to get the bottoms of the fractions to 20. Now for 3/4, to get the bottom to equal 20, we need to times the 4 by 5. And whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top, so times that by 5 as well, which will be 15. And for 2/5, we'll get that bottom to 20, so we times that by 4, and so we've got times the top by 4 as well, to make it 8. So it's going to be 15 over 20 plus 8 over 20. So we need to add the numerators. So it'd be 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23 over 20. Now that is a top-heavy fraction, so we can rewrite that as 1 and 3/20. And we can add the 4 and the 1 together to make 5 and 3/20. So the answer is 5 and 3/20. Whenever you have north lines, they will always be parallel. So what we have here is we have a straight line going through two parallel lines, which are our two north lines. And therefore this angle here is going to equal this angle here. And the reason for that is that the two angles are alternate, they're Z angles. So we can say that that is 135, and I always like to try and show the examiner the reasons, so that's because it's alternate angles. And we know also that angles on a point add up to 360, so this red angle represents the bearing of A from B. And so to find this angle out, what we're going to do is just 360 take away 135. And the reason for that is angles on a point equal 360 degrees. And when we work that out, we get the answer of 225. So our bearing is 225 degrees. So when you read this question, the question's basically asking you to find the bearing of O from B. So the lifeboat is at B, so I'm going to draw a north line here. And to find a bearing, you start from the north line and you keep going clockwise. So we're going to look for this angle here. Now, this angle, which is given to us in the question, and this angle here, which I'm just going to call x, are going to be equal. So x is going to equal 135 degrees. And the reason for that is we've basically got, and I'm just going to draw or extend the north line down, because we've basically got well, we have a set of parallel lines here, and we have a set of z angles, which we know is alternate angles. So the reason for that is it's alternate angles. And always show the reasons to the examiner. Okay, and so to find out what the bearing is, so the bearing of O from B, it's just going to be 360 take away 135, and the reason for that is angles on a point. We've run out of space. Okay, so we're going to do 360 take away 135, which is 225, and so our answer is 225. There's a 3 on the outside of the bracket, or cube on the outside of the bracket, and cube means times it by itself 3 times. So we're going to times this by itself 3 times. Now we know the rules of indices say when you times two numbers with the same base, you add the powers. So it's going to be 13 plus 13 plus 13, so it's going to be 7 to the power of 39. Now you might notice that actually there's a quicker way of doing this. All we need to do is times the powers, which will also equal 7 to the power of 39. So here we're asked to factorise a quadratic, and our answer will be x plus or minus something, x plus or minus something. So it'll be 2 sets of brackets with an x at the start. Okay, so to be able to find out what's in the bracket, we look at the 36 there, and we know that we're going to have to multiply two numbers together to make that 36. And we look at the coefficient of the x, that 15, and we know we're going to have to add these numbers together to make that 15. Now, if you just can figure out in your head the answer, that's absolutely fine. If not, you can just quickly write down the factors of 36. Now, because they multiply together to make a positive 36, they'll either both be positive or both be negative, but they add together to make a positive number. So we're just looking at the positive factors. So 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. And we're looking for which ones of those add together to make 15. And we can see here it's going to be 3 and 12 add together to make 15. So our two numbers are going to be plus 3 and plus 12, or the other way around. This looks like it's a really tricky question, and it is a little bit tricky, but it's a little bit easier than maybe it looks. The highest common factor is found when you have the prime factors, which we do, of two numbers, and you put them into a Venn diagram. Then you can find the prime factor, the highest common factor, by multiplying all the numbers in the overlap. So we're going to rewrite these numbers just, instead of squared, we're just going to write them out without index form. Just makes it a bit easier. And so I'm just removing the squares. And we're going to draw ourselves a Venn diagram. So let's just do a rectangle at the outside. I'm going to try and do some nice circles here. Try my best anyway. Okay, so on the left hand side we have the 450, on the right hand side we have the 132. So we'll start with the 450 and the numbers. So actually looking at the numbers, looking at the factors at the top, the prime factors, we can see they both have a 2 in them. So I cross them both out and put 2 in the middle. We can see they both have a 3 in them. So cross those 3's out and put 3 in the middle. And then 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has the 2 and the 11. So to find the highest common factor, as I said, you multiply all the numbers that are in the middle. And so the highest common factor will be 6. There are 4 different proofs for proving that two triangles are congruent. Congruent means exactly the same. The first one is that if all the sides are the same. The next one is that two angles are the same, then a side, or an angle, then a side, then an angle. Next one is right angle, hypotenuse, side. And the last one, side, and then an angle, and then another side. Now, we don't have an angle or a right angle at all in this, so we can cross these out. But we do have 3 sides that are exactly the same. They're both 10, 13, and 16. So the proof is side, side, side. We can rewrite this question as 2 over 3 divided by 20 over 1. So whenever you have an integer, it's just the same as that integer over 1. Now the rule is that we're going to keep, flip, and change. So we're going to keep the first fraction as 2/3, change the divide to a times, and flip the second fraction. Then we multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. We can actually halve top and bottom here, and it does ask us to simplify it if possible. So our answer is 1 over 30. To subtract mixed numbers, we must convert them into improper fractions first. So to do that, we do the big number times the bottom and add to the top. So it's going to be 3 times 4, which is 12, and add to the top, which is 15. Keep the bottom the same. 2 times 5, add to the top. So 2 times 5 is 10, add to the top is 11. Now we need to get the denominators the same. So the first number in the 4 and the 5 times table So we just write out the times tables, and we can see that 20 is the first number in both of them. So we're going to times top and bottom of the first fraction by 5 and top and bottom of the second fraction by 4. So we must have the denominators the same to be able to add or subtract them, in this case subtract them. So when we do that, we get 75 over 20, and 11 times 4 is 44 over 20. Subtract the tops and we get 31 over 20. This is improper, so we can take away one lot of 20 from the top, which will give us 1 and 11 over 20, and that is actually our answer. So I'm just going to write this out again, just so we've got a bit more space. Okay, the way we solve this is very similar to solving an equation with equal signs, but this time we're going to do 2 tramlines because there's 3 sides of this inequality, and we need to get x on its own. So looking at the fact that we've got 3x plus or 3x minus 5, we're going to deal with that minus 5 first. So we're going to add 5 to all 3 sides. So add 5 here. So we'll just leave 3x in the middle and add 5 to the right hand side. Now we need to get rid of that 3, so we're going to divide by 3, and again we need to do it all 3 sides. So divide by 3 and divide by 3. So we've got x is greater than or equal to 7, and then we've got 10 is greater than x on the right hand side. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick grid to be able to do this question. And I'm going to put the 2x minus 11 at the top, so 2x, and we've got minus 11. And we're going to do the 3x minus 4 down the side, so 3x minus 4. And it's a multiplication grid, because the 2 brackets are together, so 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times minus 11, well that's going to be a minus, and 3 times 11 is 33 with an x. Minus 4 times 2 would be minus 8x, because it's 2x, and 2 minuses make a positive, and that would be positive 44, and we can put plus there, because when we put them all together, we get 6x squared minus 33x minus 8x plus 44. Now you can see that these two here, the minus 33x and the minus 8x, are like terms, so we're just going to add them together, and we get 6x squared minus 41x plus 44, and so our answer is 6x squared minus 41x plus 44. So the first thing we need to do is factorise the quadratic, and so we put down 2 sets of brackets, and an x will be at the start, and so we're thinking about 2 numbers that times together to make 44 and add together to make that minus 15 there. So the 2 numbers will be minus 11 and minus 4. So minus and minus is a plus when we times them. 11 times 4 is 44, and then when we add them together, minus 11 plus minus 4 is minus 15. And all we need to do now is get each of the brackets equal to 0 and solve it. Get our lines in, add both sides, add 11 to both sides, and we get x equals 11 as one of the solutions. And then we do exactly the same thing to the other bracket, get it equal to 0. Get our lines in, add 4 both sides, and we've got x equals 4, so our other solution is 4. When it's said that y is inversely proportional to x, it means that y changes as 1 over x changes. And to write this in an equation, all we do is we just write y equals k over x. Now k is something we need to find. So what we need to do is find out what a value of y and a value of x are somewhere on the graph that would be formed from this, and we've got that in this question. So we know that when y is 7, then x is going to be 7.9. And what I need to do now is just draw my lines down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just times both sides by 7.9. And so we have k equals, and it'd be 7 times 7.9, which is 55.3. So we know that k is 55.3. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation here, or this formula here. But instead of k, I know that it's going to be 55.3. So our answer is y equals 55.3 over x. First thing we notice is that there is a square here, so we can work out what this length is going to be. It's also going to be 40 centimeters. And whenever we're working out the area of a shaded area, we're normally working out the area of two shapes and subtracting one from the other. And this question's really no different. So we're going to start off working out the area of the square. And all we need to do now for that is 40 times 40, which will be 1,600 centimeters squared. I normally only put units in our answer. The next thing we're going to do is work out the area of the circle, but to do that we need to work out what the diameter of the circle is, and if you notice that the diameter of the circle is just 40 degrees. It's the same as the width of the square, or height of the square. So if the diameter is 40 degrees, the radius would be 20 degrees. So for the circle, for the area of the circle, we're going to do pi times the radius, which is 20 squared, and 20 squared would be 400, so this will be 400 pi. This question's asking us to leave it in terms of pi, so we're going to do that. Now next we're going to work out the all of the corners, so that includes these three here and this one. So I'll say, like, I don't know, 4 corners. Just try and explain to the person marking my exam what I'm doing. And to do that, we're just going to do the square, take away the circle. So 1,600 take away 400 pi. Now we can't actually do anything more than that. That is our answer. So it's just, we just leave it at that. And to work out just the shaded bit, which is this bit here, they are 4 equal amounts that we've got for these corners. So just one corner, which is the shaded bit, will be the 4 corners divided by 4. Now we've got a kind of fraction here. We can divide all of the terms by 4. So that will leave 1 at the bottom, 100 pi here, and this will be 1,600 divided by 4 is 400. So we're just cancelling the fraction, and actually we leave it as 400 minus 100 pi, and that indeed is our answer. You can't simplify that any further. We don't have to for this question, but it might be helpful to draw a Venn diagram for this. And we've got green and brown leaves, so we'll have green on the left and brown on the right. So green and brown. And we're told that there are 19 green and 15 brown and 6 that were not green and brown. So the only number we can put in is the 6 on the outside of the Venn diagram. We're told that 19 are green, but we don't know which, either they're in here or a bit of both. So what we can do is we can label the centre X, and we can say that there are 19 take away X just green, because they could have been both green and brown. And for the brown we can do the same, so it'd be 15 minus X. And for the next step, we know that all of them together add up to 32, because it says in the question. So we're going to add all of these, the 19 minus X, the 15 minus X, and the 6 together, and we know that equals 32. And let's get our solving lines in. So we've got minus X and minus X, that will be a minus X. And we've got 19 plus 15 plus 6, which will be 40, equals 32. We're going to take away the 40 both sides. And we can just times by -1 both sides to make them both positive. So now we know x is 8, we can start filling in the Venn diagram. So it's 19 take away 8, which will be 11. X is 8, so we know that that's 8. And 15 take away 8, which is 7. So find the amount that were green and brown. We know it's going to be 8. So we can write this as a fraction. So it would be 2.84 times 10 to the power of 11 over 4 times 10 to the power of -2. What we can do is split this up into two fractions. So 2.84 over 4 times 10 to the power 11 over 10 to the power of 2, or -2. Okay, so we're going to start by doing 2.84 divided by 4. So we're going to just do the bus stop method. So 4 on the outside, and we've got 2.84 on the inside. 4's into 2 don't go, so carry the 2 across. 4's into 28 go 7, and 4's into 4 go 1. So it's going to be 0.71 times, and then the rules of indices say that if you divide two powers of the same base, they're both 10, then you just take away the power. So it's 11 take away -2. Now the two minuses, the two takeaways, actually convert to a plus, so it would be 11 plus 2, which would be 13, so it would be 10 to the power of 13. Now we've got a bit of a problem here, because standard form must have a number between 1 and 10, and not including 10, at this position here, and this is obviously less than 1, so we need to convert this into standard form. So what we can do is just write the number out again. So I'm going to write this as an actual number. So it's 10 to the power of 13, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Fill in the zeros. So it would be 7, 1, and all those zeros. And then I'm going to put it back into standard form. Now, the decimal point will need to be here to make it 7.1. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to be 7.1 times 10 to the power of 12. Now, with a bit of practice, you don't need to write out the whole number. You'll be able to just know that if you convert that into 7.1, then you just need to take away 1 from the power. But if you're not sure, and it's not an unreasonable number like 10 to the power of 105, then it's just worth sometimes just writing out the actual number and being 100% sure that you've got it the right way around. We're going to start off by just writing the decimal in the standard form, which is 4.3. And we're going to look at the power. Now, if the power is positive, it means the standard form number is a really big number. If it's negative, it means it's a very small number. And here it's negative, so we know it's a small number. Now we're going to do the amount of jumps that it shows in the power. So it says a 5 there, so we're going to do 5 jumps. And because it's a small number, we're going to go to the left to make it a small number. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So the new decimal point is going to be here. All the jumps that we made, we're going to fill in with zeros. And because it's decimal, we're going to start it off with a 0. So our new number is, or our ordinary number is 0.00043. Now it's important to realise that we shouldn't really think about it as jumping the decimal point. We're actually shifting the number, but it's all relative, and it's a lot quicker just to move that decimal point. In this question we have a right angle triangle, and we know 2 of the sides, and we're looking for the third one. So that screams to me Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, with c squared being the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the one opposite the right angle, so this is going to be c. And we'll label the other ones a and b, it doesn't matter which way around they go. So A is 5, so it'd be 5 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144. And so 25 plus 144 is 169. Now that's C squared, so we need to solve here, and the way to solve is just to square root both sides. And so it would be 13 equals C. Because it's distance, we don't worry about the negative 13, so just the positive 13. So we know C is 13, so we need to know what the total length around the triangle is. So we're going to add the 5, the 12, and the 13 we've just found. When you do that, you get 30. So we know there's 30 meters in total. Now it does say that we need 90 milliliters of paint per meter of wood. So the amount of paint needed is going to be the 30, because that's the total distance, times the 90, because we need 90 for every meter of paint. 3 times 9 is 27, and then put the 2 zeros at the end. So the answer is 2,700 milliliters. So we need to first of all work out how many black and red counters there are at the start. Now if you look at the fraction of the probability of picking a black, in your first pick is 2 over 5, and then the second pick is 1 over 4. So you can see that there's one less at the numerator and then one less overall. So that means we can conclude that there are 2 blacks at the start, 2 black counters, and if there are 2 black counters and there's only black and red counters, then there must be 3 red counters, so that to make up the fact that it's 2 over 5. Okay, so to find the missing probabilities, the first couple are quite simple, because we know that, let's do a different colour, this and this have to add up to 1. And so if the probability of picking a black there is 1/4, then the probability of picking a red must be 3 over 4, because these have to add up to 1. Same with these two, these have to add up to 1. So if we've got 2/5 at the top, the bottom one must be 3/5. And finally, we've got these two here. Now these two here we're not given any fractions for, but given the fact that we started with 2 black and 3 red, we've picked one of the red, so we've got 1 less red, and that means we've got 2 black counters and 2 red counters. So it means that the probability of picking a black is 2 over 4, or 1/2, and the probability of picking a red is 2 over 4, or 1/2. So I'm just going to write this question out just a bit bigger so we can see it a bit better. Okay, so we've got numbers and we've got letters. Let's focus on the numbers first. We've got 77 over 11. So 77 divided by 11 is just 7. So the answer will just be 7 with the numbers. And here we've got x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 6. When you divide powers we're of the same base and they're both x, you take them away. So you do 11 take away 6, which is 5. So to answer this question, you need to just know the answer off by heart. There is a diagram that can help us actually get there. And if we just draw a right angled triangle and put the lengths as 1, not right angle here, we can use Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to work out the fact that this is going to be root 2. Because it's an isosceles triangle, this angle here is going to be 45 degrees, and same with the bottom right one, but we're not interested in that. When we label it with our marked angle here, we've got the adjacent is here and the hypotenuse is here. Now we know from trigonometry that cos x equals a over h. The angle is going to be cos 45, and a is going to be 1, and h is going to be root 2. Now, this is a bit of a strange one with 1 over root 2, because we need to actually be able to rationalise the denominator. And basically what that means, if you haven't done surds yet or you aren't doing surds, is you times Tom1 by root 2. And so we end up with root 2 over 2. So if you ever see 1 over root 2 is absolutely fine as an answer, but if you ever see the answer as root 2 over 2, the two are actually exactly the same. So writing 1 over root 2 is fine, or writing root 2 over 2 is also correct. There are a couple of different methods for drawing a graph, and we're going to do the cover-up method. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely cover up, and I'm going to do this with a little highlighter maybe. I'm going to cover up the minus 3y. I'm just going to cover up the y term. And so what that leaves me with is 10x equals minus 30. So if I get my solving lines in, I just need to divide by 10 both sides. So we've got x equals minus 30 divided by 10 is going to be minus 3. Now x equals minus 3 gives us the x-intercept. So we know that the x-intercept is minus 3. What is the x-intercept? Well, it's where the graph will hit the x-axis. So it'll hit it at minus 3. I'm going to do the same thing again. But this time I'm going to cover up the x term. I'm just going to cover this up. And so we're going to end up with minus 3y equals minus 30. Again, put my lines in. And this time I'm going to have to divide both sides by minus 3. And so we've got a minus divided by minus, which is a positive. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So our y-intercept will be 10. Y equals 10. So that will be here. And we know that the minimum amount of points we need to be able to draw a graph accurately, to draw a graph are 2. So if we've got 2 points, we can draw a graph. And here we do have 2 points. So I'm just going to draw in this graph as best as I can. And make sure your graph goes for the complete graph. Then make sure your line continues on for the complete graph and don't just draw it between the x and the y intercepts. So we're going to start off by finding the multiplier, and we start off with 100%. It's an increase of 3.4%, so we get increase 3.4%, and so that would be 103.4%. And then we need to make that a multiplier, so we're dividing it by 100, and so that would be 1.034. So anytime we times a number by 1.034, we'll increase it by 3.4%. So it says that we start off with 1,700. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in 1,700 into our calculator, then we're going to press the equals button. And what that does is it stores the 1,700 in memory. Then every time we press the ANS button, it's going to remember what the current number is, and we're going to then times that by 1.034. So at the moment, the current number stored in memory is the 1,700, times by 1.034 will increase the 1,700 by 3.4. Press it once, and it gives us £1,757.80. Now, when we press it again, that would be after the second year. So it puts in the 1,757.80, it puts that in as this answer here, and then raises that by 3.4%. So we've got to keep pressing equals and count how many times we press equals to get to £1,743.26. And you'll find that on the fourth press of the equals button, you will get £1,943.26. When solving simultaneous equations graphically, if you draw the lines to both graphs, which we have done here, the solutions, or solution, because they're both linear, will just be where the two graphs cross. So this here will be our solution. So x is 2 and y is minus 4. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.